Hello everyone, my name is Creepy and welcome to the Draft League Q&A episode number 13. I'm here today with Joel from the Token Minorities.
How's it going, guys? This is Jolt from the Token Minorities, and I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, so basically he's the best player I ever interviewed so far. Just like a little girl meeting Justin Bieber.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, okay. So we can start on the first step question. How and when did you start to play the Draft League format?
How? All right. So, well, I started. It would have been 2014, I believe. Might have been 2015, but at least 2 years ago. And it was kind of just by chance because I saw a video or like one of my friends linked me a video on K to the Two, Kyle's YouTube channel, where it was this tryout video or this, in a sense, a sign up video for the NPL, the league that I'm currently the commissioner of. And yeah, so I just filled out my information and got a contact from them and got my tryout battle and got involved. So yeah, I had no idea what I was doing though. It was just they just called it a league, so I'm like, all right, this is probably pretty similar to OU, which is all I'd really done at the time. And yeah, it was nothing like OU, and I found out pretty quickly because in my tryout battle, I just brought this OU team that I had been using on the ladder, and the opponent that I played in that battle just straight up counter teamed me. So I'm like, well, all right. I was actually a little bit pissed at first, but then I realized that was kind of the point of the format. So yeah, but that's kind of how I got involved. I just saw the video relatively randomly, just got it sent to me from a friend, and I got involved with the NPL, and now I'm suddenly commissioner somehow. So yeah, that's cool.
Very cool. So, what are your accomplishments in the Draft League format?
So I don't have any championships, unfortunately, though I probably should if you've seen my season 4 content. But so I've made playoffs in all but one of my seasons in draft leagues, so that's pretty cool. I've won my conference in most of those seasons as well. Haven't done quite as well in the past few seasons, but I also kind of attribute that to being in really hard leagues. But yeah, so main things are the conference championships and playoff appearances. I have a championship appearance as well in season 4 and should have won that game as well, but I'm not salty at all. But yeah, that's all I got.
Okay, so what was your best season in any league or tournament you've been in?
Yeah, so it'd be the same season as when I made it to the championship game. So that was season 4 of the National Pokeball League. Made it to the championship game. My record throughout the season was 9-2, technically 9-1 if you don't count the kind of meme game that I had at the end of the season, since I had played a potential playoff opponent. And then I won a couple games in playoffs that season as well. So that was definitely the best season I think I've had in terms of results. But I think I've had a few seasons where I've really liked my draft, where I liked how I played, and just didn't quite get as far in the playoffs as I would have liked to. So, but yeah, season 4 NPL is definitely my favorite season, best season so far.
Okay, so this question is written down like, what was your best draft? And I'm gonna change it, the word, and I'm gonna change it, what was your favorite draft? Because I feel like if you like the draft, you can do well with it. That's
Mm-hmm.
how I'm looking at it. So, what's your
Yeah.
favorite draft?
Favorite draft. All right. So I have two, but I'm only going to mention the one because I've already kind of talked about it a little bit. And that's that season 4 draft. So let me just list this off. It's gross. All right. So this was an open draft, a free draft. So it didn't have a point system to worry about. And that's why there's going to be so much broken stuff on here. But this is also Gen 6. So it was Clefable, Jirachi, Tentacruel, Gliscor, Breloom, Talonflame, Lucario, Raikou. Now, how do I get all those on the same team? That's the first question. Then there's also a Mega Latios and a Sneasel and a Wobbuffet. So that draft was so fun to use because it was super versatile and it had so much priority as well, with the Breloom, Talonflame, and Lucario and Sneasel all having really good priority, plus having Clefable, which is just one of my favorite mods in the format, and then Megalodios, which was just recently unbanned at the time, so everyone thought it was broken. I kind of still think it is, and I don't really think so anymore, but at the time it was still really, really good. So yeah, that was probably my favorite draft of Gen 6, and I guess I can kind of split the question a little bit here and talk about Gen 7. So the draft I actually currently have in the NPL, I really like a lot too. It's got a bunch of momentum on it. I'm gonna see if I can pull that up real quick. Yeah, that's Jirachi, Terrakion, Crobat, Rotom Superior, Cofagrigus, Gudra, Aromatisse, Swampert, Zangoose, and Mega Houndoom. So it's kind of a weird draft. It's got a lot of cool stuff on it, like the Zangoose, Mega Houndoom, two mons that I love using, and then a ton of momentum as well. So yeah, this draft is also really versatile. So really, any draft that's super versatile and has some fat stuff, that's the kind of draft that I really enjoy.
Okay, so when you start a new league, in example, the NPL Season 7, how do you plan your draft? What are the most important parts in a good draft? What makes a bad draft a bad draft?
Oh boy, asking the real questions now. All right, so there's a lot that goes into drafting, and I'm going to try to keep it kind of short because I could go on for literally all day on this, I think. But some of the most important components of drafting are your speed tiers, your synergy, and then just making sure that you fill out several key roles, which I guess I'll list off here in a little bit. But starting with the speed tiers. So in Gen 7, things are really offensive, right? You got the Z moves that just kill things. You've got all these brand new Tapus and Ultra Beasts that just hit super hard, have Beast Boost, which is scary. There was just a really large power creep in this gen. And because of that, I feel that draft format has become much more offensive, or at least offensive drafting thrives a lot more. So that makes speed tiers all the more important, I feel. You want to be able to be ahead of the game in terms of combating offensive teams, and in terms of just not getting your face pushed in by wall breakers. For example, like Nidoqueen. It's not a Gen 7 mon, but if you look back at Gen 6, that was a Pokemon that was drafted a lot, and that's because it's good defensively, and it's also a really good breaker offensively with the ground and poison dual stab that it provides. So if you were able to draft a team that, for the most part, outspeeds breakers like that, then that can really help you out a lot with your building. Another example for Gen 7 would be something like Tapu Bulu. I believe it's like base 76 or 78 speed, something like that. You want to have a lot of mons that can outspeed that so that it's not just clicking Banded Woodhammer against your team and killing everything. So you want to have a lot of fast stuff on your draft. You also want to just have a good distribution of stuff. So what I like to do, what I try to do whenever I'm drafting, is to have a speed tier gap of no more than like 10 to 15 base points throughout the entirety. So just taking, for example, my NPL draft for this season that I already talked about earlier, I have Jirachi at base 100 speed, Terrakion at base like 108, I believe. Crobat's like 130. Rotom is base 80 something. Superior 113. Cofagrigus is a very low speed tier. Gudra 80. Aromatisse very low. Swampert 60. Zangoose 90. Mega Houndoom 115. If you look at all those numbers, the gaps are small between them. And that basically just means that my opponents are not able to run, for example, Adamant Nature on something like a Cobalion because it cannot drop its speed low enough to make that a safe thing to do. They have to run Jolly to outpace whatever my next fastest threat is, which really helps against a lot of breakers, I think, in the format, just to force them to run that speed boosting nature instead of that offensive boosting one. So yeah, speed tiers are pretty important. The other things that I mentioned, so general synergy, you don't want to overlap typing too much. There's some overlaps that are okay. Like, for example, if you have Lucario on your team, that's not a good steel type defensively. It's a good offensive one, sure, but you need a good defensive steel type on a draft, and Lucario does not fit that role, so you'd want to have a second steel type probably if you have Lucario. As another example, something like Greninja as your water, you want to have a bulky water on every draft, in my opinion, regardless of what style of draft it is. So if you have Greninja, you might want something like Rotom, you might want something like a Swampert or just a fatter water type like that. And also ground types, I've found it's really nice to double up on, especially if they have different quad weaknesses. So, for example, if you have like a Gliscor on your team that's 4 times weak to ice, you could get a second ground type that's not weak to ice at all, and instead quad weak to grass, like a Swampert. That's a good combination, I think, that you could double up on your type synergy. But in general, you don't want to double up on too many typings. That's something that helps out your draft a lot. And you also just want to fill a lot of the key roles, like a couple hazard removers, several hazard setters. You want to have wall breakers, ground immunities, electric immunities, all that good stuff. Usually a grounded poison is a good idea as well. These are just all little components that you want to have on your draft. And I guess I'll give a little bit of a shout out to my own channel here just so that you can see a more complete answer to this question. We do a series from time to time called Drafting with the Elite, and you can see there a pretty full list of the roles that we recommend that you fill out whenever you're drafting. So I recommend you take a look at that if you're interested in hearing more on this kind of question.
Okay. I'm gonna like your question took 1.5 replays.
Oh really? Whoops.
No,
Sorry.
I love it. Like, keep going. It's so interesting. Like, what is the most underrated Pokemon in Draft League format, in your opinion?
Diggersby. Diggersby. Oh my lord. It's a monster. It's a little bit slow, but it's so versatile, and like it's not O-code by much, especially if you invest enough in its bulk. Yeah, like Diggersby is by far the most underrated Pokemon. Like, ask around to different leagues, and it's probably been an MVP candidate in like all of them. So, yeah, Diggersby is so good.
Okay, so what is the most overrated Pokemon in a Draft League format, in your opinion?
I kind of think, I don't know, I've always felt Victini was overrated, personally. The reason being, it's, I don't know, I just don't, I guess I don't like its coverage options too much. I don't like that it's easily pursuit trapped. Its best move in V-Create is a very good move, but it gives you that drop in speed and drop in defenses, which just leaves you as pursuit fodder. It's just one of those mons that I feel if an opponent has drafted well is only going to get 1 kill for every death, which isn't worth a round 1 pick, in my opinion. If Victini was a normal like round 2 pick, then I could support that. I wouldn't call it overrated. But when it's a consistent round 1 pick and it tends to go 1 for 1, at best 2 for 1 in a given game, like that's not good enough for a round 1 pick, in my opinion. So I would say Victini is probably the most overrated. I would also say Necrozma is another one, as there was a lot of early hype around Necrozma this gen, but I think people are slowly starting to realize that it just doesn't have the coverage to be good yet. It has an amazing ability. It has decent recovery options. It has a lot of setup options, but it does not have the coverage to make it that good quite yet. So I'd say Necrozma and Victini are definitely the top 2 most overrated right now, at least. Victini is a little better this gen, I will say, with Z moves, but especially in Gen 6, Victini, I think, was the most overrated.
Okay, so what is your favorite Pokemon to use in a Draft League format?
All right, well, I got two. Number 1 is Clefable. Clefable is so fun to use because it's super versatile, and people, for whatever reason, just don't know how to prep for it properly. Really, the best way to prep for it is probably just having taunt on something, but people don't really do that too often for whatever reason. So that's a thing. But Calm Mind, Cosmic Power are 2 really fun sets to run on Clef. And this gen, I'd argue that Life Orb is actually the better set, more of an offensive. Clefable's a little bit stronger this gen. But of course, also having Rocks, that nice unaware ability whenever you really need it. Just so many things Clef can do. Makes it really fun to use. And then the other one is kind of a Jolt special. That's Wobbuffet. Wobbuffet's just really fun to use. It's not that good, and I kind of regret to say, but on the right team, and if you use it properly, it's a really, really fun Pokemon because people will never prep for it. They think it's a non-factor, and it can definitely be a factor in a game if you play your cards right. So yeah, those are my 2 favorite in draft format so far, at least. There's a lot of new Pokemon I haven't gotten to use yet, but we'll get there.
Okay, the next question is kinda obvious. What is the most competitive league you've been in?
Huh. Well, I've only been in a few leagues, to be fair, but yeah, like NPL, National Pokeball League, is just ridiculous. Uh, it's yeah, just everyone in that league is really good, and I feel like I can legitimately lose at any time in that league, which is both scary but also kind of cool because it's a thrill whenever you know that every single player you play against is going to give you a run for your money. So yeah, definitely NPL. Although I will say PPL that I also played in is also a very strong league. So no discredit meant toward them, but NPL is definitely the hardest.
Okay, so just okay. What is your proudest accomplishment? Like, I'm taking accomplishment as maybe you're the best player you ever beaten. Like, I have like I think it's like I answer my questions a lot. Like I'm trying to think about it. I'll probably have like my best playing game, even though I lost. This is how I'm looking at it. So, what is your proudest accomplishment? Eh. Hello, Jolt. Oh, I'm an idiot. I muted the script. Oops. Can you talk?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It was my bad. I'm. Oops. Sorry. Fun start.
Okay.
No. For the start. But for the first question. What is your proudest accomplishment?
Um. Okay. So, all right. And you wanted me to to respond to this from the standpoint of like, even though I lost, still playing really well, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. So, okay, I guess there's two. Yeah, there's two. So, in NPL season 6, so this most recent season, I had a couple really close losses against people who I consider like top 3 in the world in draft format. Those being Iron Flash Gaming and Matty Brolick. Lost to both of them 1-0, super close. Just came down to one little play at the end that determined the game. But I was pretty happy with how I played in both of them. I think against Iron Flash Gaming, Anthony Zazzo, it really just came down to, in a sense, a 50-50 in terms of like what I expected out of his prep at the end. It was a Snorlax against a Ferrothorn that had Protect. I wasn't sure if he would be Resto Chesto Snorlax or if he would be like Custap Berry. He turned out to be Custap instead of Resto Chesto, and I lost the game because of it. But it just came down to that 50-50. That was a playoff game, so like really intense, super intense, and could have advanced me to the semifinals of the playoffs last season, but unfortunately came up short there, but still thought I played pretty well. I made some really aggressive plays that I don't typically make, but against someone of that caliber, I felt like I needed to. So yeah, I was pretty proud about that game, and also against Matty Brolick last season, the NPL. Again, very close game. And it just came down to just playing around a Trick Room again at the end of the game. Maybe made one little misplay that caused me to fall behind, but still was pretty happy with how the game turned out, as it was a super fun game. Like that was one of the most fun games I've ever played in because it was just so evenly matched, and like Maddie had prepped so well. I definitely had the matchup advantage, but he prepped super well in that game, so it was very, very close. But yeah, both of those games, thought both me and my opponents played really well, and came down to the wire. And you can't really ask for much more than that whenever you have a super close game, and feel like when you lose, it's not because you got hacked or whatever, it's because your opponent genuinely beat you. And I have no problem with that, and those are always fun to be a part of.
Okay, so who is the best player you have ever fought?
Yeah, so I mentioned Iron Flash Gaming, I mentioned Matty Brolick, both of them fantastic players, but they are not number one in my opinion, and that is Gypsy King. Gypsy is just ridiculous. I've played him twice at this point. I've lost both times. The first time I didn't really know who he was, and admittedly, I didn't take him as seriously as I should have. I lost with a matchup I should never lose with. He had a team with no Dragon or Psychic Resist, and I had a Mega Latios and still managed to lose. So what's that say about Gypsy? He's ridiculous, man. If you haven't played him before, if you haven't watched him battle before, strongly recommend you do that. His YouTube channel is just called Gypsy King. Just go take a look at him. His prep is just beyond anyone else, I think. His drafting ability is very, very good. he's just a monster, man. Like, I don't know what else to say. He's just so good.
Okay, so who is the best player you have ever been in?
Best player I've ever beaten. I've played a lot of good players over the years. Some of the better ones that I have beaten, like Travesty from PPL, Shoddy from the PPL, Trev CL from NPL, and I think also GPC and TBU right now. Togavor is very good. Been able to come out on top a few times against him. Cheese Boy is very good as well. I think most of these are actually replays that are being shown throughout this, so you're able to see some of those happen. Top Tier Boy, Aberforth, also two very strong players. So, unfortunately, haven't been able to knock off any of the quote-unquote draft league gods quite yet, but we're getting closer and closer, so hopefully I can pull off one of those pretty soon.
Hopefully. So, what player you want to beat? What player you want to beat the most?
I mean, I want to be Gypsy. Like, everyone wants their shot at Gypsy, right? So I get another shot at him here in the NPL this season, and he's got a really spooky draft. He's got that Z-Land OT, so gotta be a little bit concerned about that. But no, I definitely want my shot at Gypsy. I want to be able to beat Maddie at some point as well. Those are probably the top two that are on my list. But I also want to beat Blake, Moxie, and Fernate, because for whatever reason, I just can't beat him. And I don't know why. He just has something over me in terms of style, I think. But yeah, I've had a lot of trouble against him in the past. That's another guy I would like to beat, and he's also on my schedule this season. So got some fun matches I'm looking forward to here in the NPL season. But definitely at the top of that list is Gypsy, I think.
Okay, so I kind of want to hear what's your answer on that one. What league you want to be in the most?
Well, like, I'm not gonna lie, like, being in the NPL is amazing. Like, seriously, I really love the league that I'm in. PPL was also a league that I was very interested in being a part of for a while, and finally got that opportunity here recently. And I think anyone would love to be part of the GBA at some point. Like, I just think that's the dream of a lot of draft league players. Even if it's just for one season, like, I think that'd be really cool. Or even like a GBA D League or something like that, just to feel more involved with that side of the community, since so few people really get to be able to do that. But even if that opportunity never comes, though, like, I've already been able to be a part of the PPL, and as well as being very involved with the NPL. So I'm happy no matter what. But yeah, GBA would be the next step if I ever were given the opportunity.
Okay, so who is the best player in the Draft League format in your opinion?
Gypsy. Absolutely Gypsy, yeah. I think I do want to give honorable mention, special shout outs to Matty Brolick and to Iron Flash Gaming. I think those two are right there. I think in Gen 6, Septile MC was also right there. I've also heard really good things about Dilwar as well. A relatively unknown name, I think, in the community, but from what I've seen, from what I've heard, he might be on the same level as Zazo, Maddie, and Gypsy. But at least from what I know, from what I've seen, from what I've played against, I definitely think Gypsy is number one, and I think Maddie and Zazo are just very close, number 2 and number 3.
Okay, so this is the final question. Do you have any tips for a new Draft League player?
Any advice?
Yeah.
Well, so this is for like a brand new Draft League player. Okay, so my first advice would be to drop any smoke on mentality you might have, because draft is entirely different from smoke on. Standard sets that you see in smoke on, they might still be okay in draft league games. I've seen people bring standard smoke on sets, and I've seen them used to great effect. But in the majority of cases, honestly, smoke on sets are not the way to go in draft formats. So my advice would be to be creative, but don't be stupid. Basically, build sets that will work in a matchup, but don't try to gimmick your way through games. Just because gimmicks typically aren't the safest option. They're fun to build, they're fun to use, and if you're just in it for the fun, go for it. But if you want to win consistently, you need to build consistently well, and you need to consistently be unpredictable with your build building. That doesn't mean to run gimmicks. It just means to run sets that are safely effective. It's kind of hard to really describe that, I guess. But for example, I guess you could look at something like a Jirachi. Jirachi is a Pokemon that can do a lot of things. In standard OU, it's more often than not going to be Scarfed, maybe a Wish Passing Stealth Rocker. There's a lot more you can do with Jirachi. Jirachi's been around for a while. You've seen a lot of standard sets over the years. And even if a set is no longer standard this generation, for example, something like Super Rachi, a very common Gen 4 Jirachi set, I think it was also used in Gen 5 a little bit, it's just a Calm Mind 3 attacks Jirachi. That is something that is very viable in draft format given the right matchups. You just need to not be afraid to use sets from past gens that were really effective, or not be afraid to bring a random coverage move on Jirachi. If your opponent has like a Swampert, bring Grass Knot on your Jirachi. If your opponent has a Gliscor, bring HP Ice on your Jirachi. Bring Ice Punch on it. Don't be afraid to adapt to whatever situation you have. Be creative. Don't be afraid to adapt. Those are the two best pieces of advice I can give, I think.
Okay, so thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'll link your channel down below. If you like this video, make sure to like. If you want to see more videos like it, make sure to subscribe both to me and Jolt. Thanks for watching. This is Squippy, and I'm out. Goodbye.